I was sitting on the porch of my grandmother's lake house, staring at the water, when I heard the tires on gravel. The funeral had been 3 days ago. I was still wearing the same sweater I'd worn to the service because I couldn't bring myself to care about anything else. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I ignored it. I'd been ignoring everyone since we buried Grandma Helen. The car door slammed, then another. I looked up and saw my sister Victoria stepping out of a black Lexus, followed by her husband Derek. She was wearing designer sunglasses and heels, completely inappropriate for a lake house. Derek had on a suit. They looked like they were going to a business meeting. "Rachel," Victoria called out, her voice sharp. She didn't wave, she didn't smile. She just stood there, one hand on her hip, waiting for me to come to her. I stayed where I was. "Vic, we need to talk." "About?" She exchanged a look with Derek. He adjusted his tie and pulled out a leather folder from the car. My stomach dropped. "The house," Victoria said, walking toward me. Her heels clicked against the wooden steps. "We need to discuss what we're going to do with it." I felt something cold settle in my chest. "What do you mean, what we're going to do with it?" Victoria sighed like I was being difficult. "Rachel, be realistic. Neither of us can afford to keep this place. The property taxes alone are probably $15,000 a year. Plus maintenance, insurance, the dock needs repairs. It's too much." "I'm keeping it," I said quietly. "You can't afford to keep it." I said I'm keeping it. Derek stepped forward, opening the folder. "Rachel, we've already spoken to a real estate agent. The market's hot right now. Lakefront property like this, we're looking at around 1.2 million, maybe 1.4 if we time it right. After fees and taxes, that's about 600,000 each." I stared at him. "Each?" "Well, yes," Victoria said, like it was obvious. "The house should be split evenly between us. That's only fair." "Fair?" I stood up, my hands shaking. "You haven't been here in 6 years, Victoria. Not once. Not for Thanksgiving. Not for Christmas. Not when Grandma had her stroke. Where were you when I was taking her to doctor's appointments? When I was sleeping in the guest room to make sure she didn't fall in the middle of the night? That was your choice," Victoria said coolly. "No one asked you to do that." "You're right. No one asked. Because you were too busy in Seattle with your tech job and your husband to care that Grandma was dying." Derek cleared his throat. "This is getting emotional. Let's stick to the facts. The house is part of the estate. Unless there's a will that specifically..." "There is a will." They both stopped. Victoria pulled off her sunglasses. "What?" "Grandma left a will. Everything goes to me." The silence stretched out. I could hear a boat motor somewhere across the lake. Victoria laughed. It was a harsh, ugly sound. "That's not possible." "It is. Grandma would never do that. She loved both of us equally. Maybe she did. But I was the one who was here." Derek stepped closer, his face hardening. "Do you have a copy of this alleged will?" "It's with her lawyer." "Name?" "I don't have to tell you that, Rachel." Victoria's voice went soft, almost pleading. It was the voice she used when she wanted something. "Come on, we're family. We shouldn't fight over money. Let's just sell the house, split it fairly, and both of us can move on with our lives. You could buy a nice condo in the city with that money. Start fresh." "I don't want a condo. I want Grandma's house." "You're being selfish." "I'm being selfish?" My voice cracked. "You show up 3 days after the funeral demanding I sell our grandmother's house so you can get a check, and I'm the selfish one?" Victoria's expression shifted. The fake sweetness disappeared. "Fine. You want to do this the hard way. Derek, call him." "Call who?" Derek was already on his phone. "Our attorney. If there's a will, we're going to contest it. Grandma was 86 years old, Rachel. If you pressured her, coerced her while she was sick, that's undue influence. The will can be thrown out." My hands went cold. I didn't pressure anyone. "We'll let a judge decide that." Victoria crossed her arms. "You have until Monday to provide a copy of the will and all documentation related to the estate. If you don't, we're filing a lawsuit. And trust me, we have the resources to drag this out for years. You'll spend everything you have on legal fees before you see a dime." They turned to leave. Victoria paused at the bottom of the steps. "One more thing," she said. "We're having the house appraised on Friday. Our guy will be here at 9 a.m. Make sure you're available to let him in." "I'm not letting anyone in." "It's not your house yet, Rachel. Legally, it's still part of the estate. We have just as much right to be here as you do." They got in the car and drove away. I stood there, shaking, until the sound of the engine faded completely. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in Grandma's old rocking chair, the one she'd had since before I was born, and tried to figure out what to do. Victoria was right about one thing. A legal battle would destroy me. I was a freelance graphic designer. I had maybe $12,000 in savings. Derek was a corporate finance guy who made 6 figures. They could afford to hire the best lawyers in the state. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Hello? Is this Rachel Monroe?" "Yes. This is James Whitfield. I'm an attorney. Your sister Victoria retained me this afternoon to handle a dispute regarding your grandmother's estate." My heart was pounding. "Okay. I understand there's some disagreement about the distribution of assets. I'd like to schedule a meeting to discuss this. Would Thursday work for you? I need to talk to my own lawyer first." "That's certainly your right. However, I should inform you that we're prepared to file a petition to contest the will by end of week if we can't reach an agreement. Given your financial situation, I'd encourage you to consider settling this amicably. Litigation is expensive." "How do you know my financial situation?" "Victoria mentioned you're a freelancer. I'm simply trying to help you avoid unnecessary costs." "I'll think about it. Thursday, at 2 p.m., at my office in Bellevue. I'll send you the address." He hung up before I could respond. I sat there, staring at my phone. Then I did what I should have done immediately. I called Grandma's lawyer, Sarah Chen. Sarah picked up on the 3rd ring. "Rachel, I was just about to call you. I heard from Victoria's attorney." "Already?" He sent a formal letter demanding documentation. "Rachel, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Did your grandmother know what she was doing when she signed the will?" "Yes, absolutely." "Was there any pressure? Any suggestion from you that she should leave everything to you?" "No. She brought it up. She said she wanted me to have the house because I was the one who cared." "Okay, that's good. But Victoria's going to argue undue influence. She's going to say you isolated Helen, that you manipulated her while she was vulnerable. That's not what happened. I believe you. But we need to prove it. Do you have anything that shows Helen was of sound mind? Medical records, witnesses, anything?" I thought about it. "Her doctor. Dr. Patterson. He saw her 2 weeks before she died. She was sharp as ever. Good? I'll subpoena his records. What about witnesses to the signing? You were there. And your assistant. That helps, but family would be better. Anyone else who can testify that Helen wanted you to have the house?" I started to say no, then remembered. Wait, Grandma kept journals. She wrote in them every day. They're upstairs. That's perfect. Bring them to me. If she wrote about her wishes, that's powerful evidence. Okay, one more thing, Rachel. Be careful. If Victoria's serious about contesting this, things could get ugly. Don't engage with her directly. Don't let anyone in the house without my approval. And if they try to intimidate you, document everything. Thursday morning, I woke up to the sound of a truck in the driveway. I looked out the window and saw a white van with Pierce and Associates Property Appraisal on the side. A man in khakis and a polo shirt was walking toward the front door. I opened it before he could knock. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to do an appraisal." "Mrs. Hoffman scheduled it?" "Mrs. Hoffman? Victoria Hoffman." "She said she's the co-owner?" "There's no co-owner. This is my grandmother's estate, and it hasn't been settled yet." He looked confused. "She said she had authorization." "She doesn't. You need to leave." "Look, I drove all the way from Seattle. Can I at least take some exterior photos?" "No. This is private property." He held up his hands. "Fine, whatever. I'll call Mrs. Hoffman and let her know." He left. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. "Victoria? What the hell, Rachel? You can't send people here without permission. I'm trying to get a fair market value so we can settle this reasonably, and you're being obstructive. There's nothing to settle. The house is mine, not according to my lawyer. He says there are serious questions about the validity of that will. Then take it to court. We will. And when we do, you're going to wish you'd been reasonable." She hung up. That afternoon, I met with Sarah at her office. I brought 3 of Grandma's journals, the ones from the last 2 years. Sarah read through them carefully, highlighting certain passages. "This is good," she said. "Really good. Listen to this. Rachel came by again today with groceries. Victoria called but only talked for 5 minutes. She's always so busy. I'm grateful Rachel is here. I don't know what I'd do without her. And here, I've decided to leave the house to Rachel. She's earned it. She's the only one who truly cares. See? She knew exactly what she wanted. This will help. But Rachel, I have to tell you, even with this evidence, a court battle could take a year or more. Victoria's lawyer is going to drag this out, run up costs, try to force you to settle. I won't settle. I admire that. But you need to be prepared. This is going to get expensive." "How expensive?" She hesitated. "If it goes to trial? 50,000, maybe more." I felt like I'd been punched. I don't have that. "I know. That's why I'm going to suggest something. My retainer is usually 10,000. For you, I'll do 5, and we'll work out a payment plan." "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. We still have to win." The next week was a nightmare. Victoria's lawyer sent a formal petition to contest the will, citing undue influence and Helen's diminished mental capacity. He also filed an emergency motion to freeze the estate assets, which meant I couldn't sell anything, couldn't access Grandma's bank accounts, couldn't even pay the property taxes. Then Victoria called again. "Rachel, this is your last chance. Derek and I are willing to make you an offer. We'll agree to a 60-40 split. You get 60%, we get 40. That's 750,000 for you, 500 for us. You walk away with more than enough to start over." "No, you're making a mistake." "Maybe, but it's my mistake to make." "Fine. Then we're moving forward. And just so you know, we've scheduled movers for next Saturday. We're taking the furniture and personal items that belong to the estate." "You can't do that." "Actually, we can. The estate hasn't been distributed yet, which means those items are jointly owned. We're entitled to our share." "Victoria, please." Some of that stuff was Grandma's. The photos, her books, the quilt she made. Should have thought about that before you decided to be greedy. Saturday morning, I woke up to the sound of diesel engines. I looked out and saw 2 moving trucks parked in the driveway. Victoria and Derek were there, along with 4 movers and a man in a suit I didn't recognize. I ran downstairs and out onto the porch. "What is this?" The man in the suit stepped forward. "Miss Monroe? I'm Gerald Peters, attorney for Victoria and Derek Hoffman. I have a court order authorizing the removal of jointly owned property from this estate." He handed me a document. I scanned it, my hands shaking. It looked official, stamped, signed, sealed. "This can't be legal." "I assure you, it is." "Now, if you'll step aside, the movers need to begin their work." "I'm calling my lawyer." "That's your right. But I'd advise you to cooperate. Obstruction of a court order is a serious matter." I pulled out my phone and dialed Sarah. It went to voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. Victoria walked up the steps, smiling. "Sarah's in court all day, Rachel." I checked. "You planned this?" "Yes. We did. Now move." The movers started walking toward the house. I stood in front of the door. "Get out of the way," Derek said. "No. Rachel, don't make this harder than it has to be. You're not taking Grandma's things." Victoria's smile faded. "We're taking what's legally ours. If you don't move, we'll call the police and have you removed for trespassing." "Trespassing? This is my house, not according to the court. Now move, or we'll move you." I felt tears burning behind my eyes, but I didn't move. One of the movers, a big guy with a beard, looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "I don't want any trouble. Maybe you should just let us do our job. You're stealing from me. We're just following orders." Victoria pulled out her phone. "That's it. I'm calling 911. Go ahead." She dialed. I heard her talking to the dispatcher, explaining that there was someone refusing to comply with a court order, that they needed an officer to come and enforce it. We waited. The movers stood around awkwardly. Derek kept checking his watch. Victoria stared at me like I was a stranger. 15 minutes later, a police car pulled up. An officer got out. Young guy, maybe 30. He looked at the scene and sighed. "What's going on here?" Gerald Peters stepped forward, handing him the document. "Officer, I'm representing the Hoffmans in an estate dispute. We have a court order authorizing the removal of property from this residence. Miss Monroe is refusing to comply. The officer read the document. He looked at me. Ma'am, is this your property? Yes. No. It's complicated. It's not complicated, Victoria interjected. She's trying to keep everything for herself when the estate is supposed to be split. We have a legal right to be here. The officer turned to me. Do you have any documentation showing you're the sole owner? The will is being contested, Victoria finished. The officer handed the document back to Peters. Looks legitimate to me. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to step aside. But, step aside, or I'll have to remove you myself. I looked at him, at Victoria, at the movers. There was nothing I could do. I stepped aside. The movers went in. I heard them walking through the house, opening closets, moving furniture. Victoria followed them, directing which items to take. The dining room table Grandma had bought in 1972. The china cabinet with the hand-painted plates. The rocking chair. I couldn't watch. I went around to the back of the house and sat on the dock, staring at the water. Half an hour later, Derek came to find me. We're finished, he said. We took what we're entitled to. The rest is yours. For now. How can you do this? He shrugged. It's business, Rachel. Nothing personal. It's personal to me. Then you shouldn't have tried to cut Victoria out. I didn't cut her out. Grandma did. That's your version. A court might see it differently. He walked away. I heard the truck start up and drive off. When I went back inside, the house felt empty. Grandma's favorite chair was gone. The photos from the mantel, the quilts from the guest room, half the books from the shelves. They'd even taken her recipe box. I sat on the floor and cried. That night, Sarah finally called me back. Rachel, I just got your messages. What happened? I told her everything. When I finished, there was a long silence. Rachel, that court order was fake. What? I just checked with the courthouse. There's no record of any motion filed by Peters. He fabricated that document. Are you serious? Completely. What they did today was theft. Criminal theft. So what do I do? First, you file a police report. Second, we file an emergency motion to get your property back. And third, she paused. Third, you tell me you've been recording all of this. I froze. What? Please tell me you've been documenting your interactions with Victoria and Derek. No. Should I have been? Rachel, if we're going to prove they've been harassing you, intimidating you, using fake legal documents, we need evidence. Do you have anything? Texts, emails, voicemails? I thought about it. Victoria's called me a bunch of times. I think my phone saves those automatically. Good. Send me copies of everything. Every text, every email, every call. I need to see all of it. The next morning, I went to the police station and filed a report. The officer who took my statement looked skeptical. You're saying your sister hired movers to steal furniture? Yes. And you have proof this court order was fake? My lawyer confirmed it. Okay, we'll look into it. But honestly, ma'am, this sounds like a civil dispute. You should probably handle it through your attorneys. But they committed fraud. Maybe. But unless you have clear evidence, it's hard to prove criminal intent. I left feeling worse than when I'd arrived. Sarah filed the emergency motion that afternoon. We had a hearing scheduled for Wednesday. In the meantime, she told me to stay at the house, document everything, and avoid contact with Victoria. Tuesday evening, my phone rang. Unknown number again. Hello? Rachel, it's Gerald Peters. My blood went cold. How did you get this number? Victoria gave it to me. Listen, I want to apologize for any confusion yesterday. There seems to have been a misunderstanding about the court order. A misunderstanding? You showed me a fake document. I wouldn't say fake. Perhaps. It's premature. I had drafted it in anticipation of the court's approval, and there was some miscommunication about the timing. That's illegal. That's a strong word. Look, I'm calling because I want to help you avoid further conflict. The Hoffmans are reasonable people. They're willing to discuss a settlement. I'm not interested. Rachel, be smart about this. You're in over your head. You can't afford a prolonged legal battle. They can. Sooner or later, you're going to run out of money, and then you'll have no choice but to settle on their terms. Wouldn't it be better to negotiate now, while you still have some leverage? What kind of settlement? 50-50 split. That's $700,000 for you. More than enough to pay off any debts, buy a new place, start fresh. This house isn't for sale. Everything's for sale, Rachel. It's just a matter of price. Goodbye, Mr. Peters. I hung up. Wednesday morning, I met Sarah at the courthouse. We were in a small room with a judge, Victoria, Derek, and Gerald Peters. The judge, a woman in her 60s with gray hair and sharp eyes, looked over the paperwork. Mr. Peters, you presented Miss Monroe with a document purporting to be a court order. Is that correct? Your Honor, there was a miscommunication. A yes or no answer, please. Yes. And this document was not, in fact, a court order? Peters shifted uncomfortably. It was a draft that had not yet been filed. So you misrepresented it to Miss Monroe and a police officer as an enforceable legal document. I did. Mr. Peters, I'm going to stop you right there. What you did constitutes fraud. I could refer this matter to the State Bar for disciplinary action. Victoria leaned forward. Your Honor, we were just trying to protect our interests in the estate. Mrs. Hoffman, you don't speak unless I ask you a question. Is that clear? Victoria's face went red. Yes, Your Honor. The judge turned to Sarah. Miss Chen, I'm ordering the Hoffmans to return all property removed from the estate within 72 hours. I'm also issuing a restraining order preventing them from entering the property or contacting Miss Monroe except through counsel. If they violate this order, they'll be held in contempt. Thank you, Your Honor. As for the underlying dispute regarding the will, that will proceed to trial as scheduled. But let me be clear. If I see any more games like this, there will be serious consequences. We left the courthouse. Victoria and Derek didn't look at me. Sarah smiled. That went well. They're going to return everything. They have to. And if they don't, we can have them arrested. What about the will contest? That's still pending. But after today, I think we're in a strong position. The judge saw through their tactics. That's going to work in our favor. That evening, a moving truck showed up at the house. The same movers from before unloaded everything they'd taken. The dining room table, the rocking chair, the photos, the quilts, all of it. Victoria called an hour later. You think you've won, she said. But this isn't over. I know. We're going to fight this will. We're going to prove you manipulated Grandma, and when we do, you're going to lose everything. Maybe, but at least I'll know I fought for what she wanted. She didn't want this, Rachel. She didn't want her daughters destroying each other over a house. Then maybe you should stop trying to take it. Silence. I used to look up to you, Vic. When we were kids, I thought you were the smartest, coolest person in the world. I wanted to be just like you, Rachel. But you're not that person anymore. I don't even recognize you. People change. Yeah, they do. I hung up. The trial was set for 6 weeks later. Sarah and I spent every day preparing. We gathered medical records showing Grandma was mentally competent right up until the end. We collected her journals, which documented years of me visiting, helping, caring for her. We got sworn statements from Dr. Patterson, from Grandma's neighbors, from the staff at the senior center where she volunteered. Victoria's team tried to paint me as a manipulator who'd isolated Helen from her family, but every witness contradicted that story. The neighbors testified that Victoria rarely visited. The senior center staff said Helen often talked about how proud she was of me, how grateful she was for my support. The trial lasted 3 days. On the final day, the judge read her decision. Based on the evidence presented, I find that Helen Monroe was of sound mind when she executed her will. There is no credible evidence of undue influence. The will is valid and shall be enforced as written. I felt like I could breathe for the first time in months. Outside the courthouse, Victoria and Derek walked past without a word. Gerald Peters looked furious. Sarah squeezed my shoulder. You did it. We did it. No, Rachel, you did this. You fought for what mattered. A week later, I got a letter from Victoria. No return address. Inside was a single piece of paper. I'm sorry, it said. I let greed turn me into someone I'm not. You were right. Grandma would have been ashamed of me. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I wanted you to know that I regret how I handled this. Take care of the house. She would have wanted you to have it. I read it 3 times, then put it in a drawer. I didn't forgive her. Not yet, maybe not ever. But I kept the house, and every morning, I sit in Grandma's rocking chair on the porch, watching the sun come up over the lake, and I know I made the right choice. Because some things are worth fighting for. Even when the cost is everything.